What's up, Green Team? We are in part 2 of 6 of the series Navigating a Contract at Closing, a series devoted to helping you get that bread. And no part of this series will be more important to determining you getting commission checks when you get a house under contract as to being able to successfully navigate the TRR period. Again, this is part 2 of the series, Navigating a Contract at Closing. Today, we'll be talking about working a TRR, and the sections we'll cover in working a TRR is reviewing an inspection report, completing the TRR, negotiating the TRR, using amount in lieu, and then signing the TRR. So what is a TRR, you're probably wondering? Well, to figure that out, we're going to take a look at the contract. So in paragraph 7 of the contract, which is the inspections paragraph, Part C, we've got an area called the treatments, repairs, and replacements. And you'll see in parentheses there, TRR. That's where the expression comes from. You'll hear this term a ton of times in real estate. And a lot of times from realtors, you'll hear it with a very negative connotation, but we're going to try to make it a little more positive because we're going to understand how it applies and what the regulations of TRR are based off of the contract. So the first part of paragraph 7C here, part 1, is the termites part, which says treatment and repair costs in relation to termites and other wood destroying insects shall be limited to the residential structure, garage, and other structures. So this is basically saying, what can we ask for in relation to termites and wood destroying insects? Well, here you go. You've got exactly the structure that it applies to. Now, the second piece of this is the part that gets a little more complicated. This is the TR that most people would discuss. And here you have a couple of deadlines. So first off, you got 24 hours after the expiration of your inspection period to get all written reports obtained by the buyer to the seller. So all inspection reports, termite reports have to get to the seller. Second, you got the buyer has two big options here. They got an A or a B. So option A is if in the sole opinion of the buyer, the results of the investigations basically scared them away and made them too concerned about the house to buy the house. This is their get out of jail free card right here. They, for any reason, in the sole opinion of the buyer, can get out of the contract and cancel it. So that's option A. Option B is the buyer can waive their right to cancel the contract in this sole opinion clause if they deliver a TR. So it's very important if you're a buyer's realtor to explain to your buyer, you are waiving your free right to cancel the contract for any reason once you submit this TR. Once you submit the TR, you're kind of on the hook. If the seller agrees to it, you're in the contract, you're locked in, and you no longer have this avenue out of the contract. So it's very important that we explain that to our buyers. The other thing that happens is once we submit this TRR, we have 7 days after delivery or after receipt to get a agreed upon TRR. If we do not get an agreed upon TRR, the contract shall terminate and the earnest money shall be returned to the buyer. So these are the deadlines that are set forth as soon as that TR gets delivered. And that's really important to work from. And the other piece that's really important, you should be asking yourself, what goes in a TR? What kind of repairs and replacements could a buyer ask for based off the house? And a lot of people debate what could be asked for. It's really in black and white right here in the contract. And it's something you can always point back to, paragraph 7C2B. You can look in here and it says, I'm reading down starting in this section. These items that are not in normal working order defined as the system or component functions without defect for the primary purpose and manner for which it was installed. Defect means a condition, malfunction, or problem which is not decorative that will have a materially adverse effect on the value of a system or component. So there it is. That's in very great legal jargon, leaves plenty of room for interpretation, which causes all kinds of problems. But if you can understand it as a materially adverse defect of any piece of the property associated with the real estate, those are the items to which we can ask for treatments, repairs, and replacements. That's what a TR is based on. Work from that, you got a pretty good shot of keeping clean TRs. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what an inspection report review looks like. So this is just an example home inspection report. This is actually from Colorado, so not even someone we would use or anything like that. But this is in general kind of what you'll see. They all vary a little bit. You're usually going to see a picture of the front of the house, the buyer's name, maybe a little info about the report. But here's where it starts getting real valuable for us. This is the report summary that's going to tell us specific issues that are going to be found within the report. And these are the ones that the inspector's kind of pointing out. These are kind of the things that in general, the buyer can choose from, maybe to ask. So this is a pretty good list for us to work from. And a really smart way of filling out your TRR is even just to mark these items on the report summary and attach it to your TRR, which we'll go over here in just a minute. But you can look and you can kind of see some of the items that are pointed out by the inspector. And he's got about 2 pages of summary, which this is a pretty long summary of an inspection. And then if you scroll down a little further, you'll see some information about the house. And then it'll be real detailed with photos of everything going on, specifically the stuff that has problems. There's going to be photos and further explanations of what's going on. Again, this is going to vary from inspector to inspector, so you just got to take your time, be able to read through it. And the key is to explain to your buyers that the items we're going to ask for on the TRR are the material defects in the property, not the decorative issues, not the things that the inspector just kind of says, hey, that's something you're going to want to change air filters every so many months. Well, that's just a tip that they're giving your buyer. What we're asking for are material defects with the property. So we want to go through this summary with our buyers and say, what's actually a material defect? What's not functioning the way it's supposed to be functioning for the property? We're going to select those. The other item we've got that we're going to have is the termite report, which usually you will not have the actual written report when you're working on the TRR. When the termite inspector comes to the house, they're probably going to tell you it's clear or it's not clear. If it's not clear, they're going to get your report that shows what the problem is. You know what to ask. If it's clear, then they will probably just send the clear report to title, and you won't have to worry about the termite piece of it. This is what the Oklahoma termite form looks like. It's a 5-page form. The termite inspector fills it out. They answer a bunch of questions. It'll be filled out a little more completely if there is an issue. So they'll show it. They'll draw up the house. They'll mark where the issue was, where they found the evidence of termites. And then this actually gets signed at closing by all parties. It's a really important form that's required by the state. So this is actually the final version of this form gets signed at closing. It's one of your closing docs, this termite report. So that's how you review both of those reports, the home inspection, the termite inspection. And the next step is once your buyer tells you, here are the items, the material defects with the property that we are interested in requesting getting repaired, we are going to complete a TRR. So if I go to my transaction desk, I'm going to go back so I can see my whole transaction here. And I'm going to add a TRR form. So the TRR form is actually called the notice of, and if you didn't know that, you could just start typing treatments like it says in the contract, repairs and replacements, and they would pop up. I've got an ORAC one. I'm going to add it. Let's take a look at what the TRR form looks like. So the TRR form has a couple of sections. The top one just says, obviously the address, and then treatment for termites, either required or not required. So if we have a clear termite, we click here. If we don't, we click here. We're going to attach the termite report, and they're going to know what area needs to be fixed. If it's not required, we click here, and we're going to send the clear report to closing. That's kind of the clean and easy part. The next piece is down here where we can list any repairs we would like fixed in the house. So let's say that in this situation, our buyers only want this very first thing. The soil appeared to have eroded from beneath the patio concrete. So we could say, this is the big issue for my buyers. They really want this fixed. I could either type it in here, repair, replace soil under beneath the patio concrete as referenced in the inspection report. So I'd put something like repair, replace, and then I'm going to put whatever date was on the inspection report. Let's just say it was this, and attached. So they have reference to it. They can look at the picture, whatever they'd like. That's okay if you're doing one or two things. What I would recommend if you're doing multiple items is to just star them or even circle them on this page. You're going to attach it and you're going to say seller to repair, replace all items as indicated on the attached home inspection report dated, and let's just use that same date for example again. Something like that. We're gonna circle all our items. We're gonna send it together so that they can both be initialed. Each of the inspection report pages will be initialed by both sides, and this form will be signed. That is how we would work through that. Now, there's one other kind of scenario that seems to be pretty common in the TRR phase where nobody wants to actually, the sellers don't actually want to do the repairs. They're kind of done with the house, they're moving out or for whatever reason. So they just want to offer an amount of money in lieu of repairs. So basically they're going to give the buyers $2,000 at closing and let them handle their own repairs. Okay. So what a big mistake that is made is by typing on here an amount to be paid in lieu of repairs of 2,000 at closing. I'm typing this, but never, ever, ever do this. Don't put an amount in lieu of repairs on the TRR. Never do it. The problem is this amount has to get sent to a lender. And when the lender sees that we're not doing repairs, we're doing something in lieu of repairs, they start to wonder what repairs should have been done at the property. So this is something we definitely want to avoid. All we would put on here is seller to complete, no repairs. And we're going to send an addendum that also has, so I'm going to X out of this. I'm going to save that for now. You can see the bottom of this is just a spot to sign for everybody. And X out this real quick. Maybe not that quick. And I'm going to add me a blank addendum. Blank addendum. We'll grab the ORC one. Good rule of thumb that also not a lot of realtors use is if you will rename these, you'll actually know what your blank addendum's for. This would be a no repairs addendum is what I would call it. So I don't get confused later when I'm sending it for signatures. So I got my no repairs addendum and I'm just going to say seller to pay an amount not to exceed $2,000 toward buyers closing costs, prepaids, escrows, and any and all other costs associated with the buyer obtaining this loan. Use this language. It'll be very valuable for you. There's more things than closing costs that we may want this money applied to, that the buyer may want this money applied to, because they may not have that much in closing costs to cover. So use this exact language. You can even screenshot it right now to be very valuable for you to use for the future. But always put this language in here, and we're going to put it in an addendum to a real estate contract. We'll put the buyer's names in up top, and we're going to send it out for everybody to sign just like we would through Finalizing. So we take this plus our TRR that says no repairs to be done, and boom, we got a signed agreed to TRR. Now I want to take you through one more scenario. Let's say that the sellers come back, say we asked for the patio dirt to be replaced. And let's say also we had dishwasher to be fixed, let's just say. Let's say that the seller said, you know what, we're going to replace the dirt, but we're not going to do the dishwasher. So they can mark it out. If you're on the seller side, you can mark it out. You'll have your seller's initial right out here to the side. You'll send it back to the buyers. They'll initial out here to the side with the difference. And then down here, you can see we've got a seller's agreement. So basically approved by the seller. So once they mark out dishwasher to be fixed, they'll initial, sign down here that's approved by the seller. The buyer will get it back. They'll initial up here by the change. And then they'll sign down here that it's amended, but we're agreeing to it. This keeps us from having to do like 15 different TRR forms. We can all fill it out in this box and stay in the same place with our initials, make sure everyone's agreeing to the same thing. and boom, we've got a completed TRR. We're going to send it off for signatures through Finalizing, and then we're going to send it to the other realtor once it's all signed, and it's going to sit in our transaction folder. That is the TRR period. If you use those rules, you'll have a lot more success working through TRRs, where a lot of people have failed contracts. Usually gets into people asking for repairs that they shouldn't be asking for, or sellers and buyers for some reason feeling like they are getting the short end of the stick. And it's kind of our job as realtors to frame these scenarios correctly so that our buyers and sellers understand what is expected of them and what they can do to keep the contract together. So keep that in mind as you go through TRR periods. Always, if you have a question, refer back to the contract. It's very clear and how everything should be worked out. That's the TRR period. See ya in the next section.